Hi, inventors! I'm Lily, the twirling tech goddess. I'm black, I dance, I'm queer, and I'm an engineer. Welcome to the TWIRCH Shop, a show that explicitly encourages radical diversity and inclusion by making the process of learning tech more fun, accessible, and relatable to people underrepresented in STEM. Each week, you'll come along with me as I create something fabulous using cutting-edge tools and technologies. Then I'll put it through my patented twirl test to make sure that it's stage ready. That's right, we twirl with our tech, because you know what they say, the family that slays together increases their socioeconomic status together. On this episode, we're coming to you live from Building 61, Boulder Public Library's Makerspace. And today, we're gonna get our Brandy on. Not Moesha Brandy, but Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella Brandy. Impossible. Brandy, we're going to the ball and we're turning the party, honey. We're making a ball gown. Using one of the oldest, most common, most accessible, most iconic, often imitated, never duplicated, hands down, the most underrated power tool in our toolbox. You've probably seen me use this tool in every episode. That's right, humans. We're talking about the so wonderful, oh so amazing, sickening, stitching, and bewitching. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage of the sewing machine. That's right, I said power tool. Now, I know some of you may not know this, but a sewing machine is no joke. And without the proper information, you can really hurt yourself. So I'm gonna introduce you to the hardware and its components step by step. We'll talk about what textiles you can and could and should not use on a sewing machine. Hashtag use cases. There are many. Then we'll discuss strategies to the dressmaking process and then show you how to get started making your own high fashion garment. But first, a little backstory. I'm from the country. Most of my family was born in Mississippi, so I grew up seeing the sewing machine being used all the time, but I never really had any personal experience with it until my home economics class in middle school. Also, my TT Vera used to sew a lot, and I once asked her for some help sewing something. Shout out to TT Vera, love you TT. Oh my God, speaking of family in Mississippi, my wardrobe today is brought to you by none other than my cousin Peaches from her boutique called Sippy Girls Apparel. Love it! SippyGirls.com, link in the description, or go to her Instagram or Facebook at Sippy Girls Apparel. Enter discount code GODDESS for 25% off. Thank you, good looking out, cuz. Anyways, so that was back when I was in high school, I think. And other than that, I didn't really use a sewing machine before adulthood. But when I went to college in Alaska, I was more into theater and I started doing ice skating. So I got more into the costume creation process and I was coming out of the closet. So I needed more access to clothes that I thought represented me and my self-expression, which is where I first started thrifting and upcycling clothes. So it was then that I bought my first sewing machine for $30 at Joann's to make my first real costume from scratch for a costume competition during Halloween at this bar called the Marlin. Shout out to the Marlin, I heard they closed down recently. Anyways, it was just after my 21st birthday and I still didn't drink at the time, but I definitely wanted to turn the party, honey. So I made this costume called Captain Fabulous. It had this cape and these little booties, and I realized that I had remembered so many basic things from my home economics course and from my TT Vera. So I got to the bar and I entered the competition and then I make it past the first few rounds and then to the top two, where I'm put against this gorgeous girl who's dressed as Jessica Rabbit, va 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 boom, and she's a natural redhead, very stiff competition. And for the final round, they tell the two of us to twerk for the crown. Oh honey. And that was when she knew she had fucked up. Needless to say, I won the competition. Snatched her first fashion trophy at a bar, honey. Unfortunately, the prize was a $50 bar tab, and I didn't drink, so I had to persuade them to give me $50. So then I made my money back for the sewing machine I bought that day, right? It's all about that comeback, Corey. I met a lot of my Alaskan friends that night as well, and some of them still call me Captain Fabulous. Shout out to Fairbanks, Alaska, and shout out to all the aunties, grandmas, granddads, regular dads, teachers, drag moms, house mothers, sharers of knowledge and information. Interlude. There's something so amazing about the passing down of knowledge through storytelling and song and shared experiences. Oh, Alaska. Comment below if you've ever been to Alaska or if you're one of my Alaskan homies. Love you. So, why a ball gown? Well, if that last story didn't tell you anything, the takeaway should be that the garments that we put on can sometimes be a super suit of sorts that transport us from being regular people into being whomever we want to be and whomever we feel we are, and allow us to present that person to the world. In a world where life is so short, it's nice to be able to choreograph and style your part in the movie. My teacher once told me that the purpose of a wearable can just be to make you feel good. So that's why I decided to use this opportunity to lift my spirits, because I'm depressed. Okay, with all of the transphobia and racism and trans misogyny that I've been experiencing and witnessing, I thought it might be nice to just feel beautiful. I don't want to wait for a reason to wear a gorgeous gown for a wedding or a bar mitzvah or a prom. I'm 36. I'm not going to prom. My existence is reason enough to celebrate, and if it will have the effect of transforming my mood today, I say it's a useful life hacking tool, if nothing else. When you look good, you feel good, then you treat people good, and then you make friends and you get jobs or farmland or whatever. So I went to the nearest Joann store and I bought all the tulle that I could find to make this fairy costume tail come to life. So let's get started. Bibbidi bobbidi boop! Material girl. This is a sewing machine, and according to Wikipedia, Charles Frederick Weizenball, a German-born engineer working in England, was awarded the first British patent for a mechanical device to aid in the art of sewing in 1755. His invention consisted of a double-pointed needle with an eye at one end. In 1790, the English inventor Thomas Saint invented the first sewing machine design, but he did not successfully advertise or market his invention. Marketing and promotion. His machine was meant to be used on leather and canvas material. It is likely that Saint had a working model, but there is no evidence of one. He was a skilled cabinet maker, and his device included many practically functional features: an overhanging arm and a feed mechanism adequate for short lengths of leather, a vertical needle bar, and a looper. His sewing machine used the chain stitch method, in which the machine uses a single thread to make simple stitches in the fabric. Cut to today, and we see so many stitches to choose from on so many types of machines. We have regular machines, embroidering machines for detail, quilting machines for quilting, blanket materials, sergers for heavy-duty sewing. For this project, however, we will just be using the good old faithful regular sewing machine, which is the one people watching this are most likely to have familiarity with. I'm mostly making this video for you, Valentina. Stop calling me. I'm kidding. You can call me girl. On here, you have all kinds of stitches that vary depending on what kind of fabric you want to use and whether it's stretch material or not, and there's even a distinction between two-way stretch and four-way stretch materials. These machines range in price from those that are more accessible in the tens or hundreds to those more industrial types that can run into the thousands. However, as I said before, you can easily find a cheap one for around $30 or probably get a used one online. But in all honesty, you get what you pay for. Once I invested in a nicer machine, which was only about 2 years ago, I was like sewing on a cloud. When it comes to thread, it's pretty simple. If you're using an organic fabric like cotton, you want to use an organic thread like cotton. However, if you're using a synthetic fabric, stretch fabrics, things with elastic in them, you want to use a synthetic thread. There are a lot of threads that include both cotton and polyurethane, but when I use stretch fabrics, I like to use 100% polyurethane thread. And finally, lastly, the fabric or textile can be whatever you want it to be. I've used everything from trash bags to coffee bags to real fabric to aluminum foil to paper rolls. I was really broke. Oh my goddess. Speaking of fabric, I recently did my ancestry test, 23andMe. That's some interesting technology over there. Anyway, I found out that I'm Nigerian, so I went to the internet and bought this Nigerian wax fabric. I'm thinking of making some beautiful culottes. Now, once you've got all the things figured out, you're gonna just start sewing if you're a person like me. But the ladies at Joann's will have me tell you that it's better to buy a pattern for whatever garment you're trying to make. Shout out to Joann's. If you don't know anything about patterning, one thing you can do that helped me learn is take apart a piece of clothing that fits you really well and create a new garment around the pieces of that clothing once it's taken apart. For this project, there will be no patterns, You heard me, people at Joann's. No patterns. I personally find patterns to be a bit wasteful, so I'll be using absolutely all of my fabric because this fabric is expensive. We can talk about this another time, but just for the record, the fashion industry is one of the most wasteful industries in the world, if not the most wasteful industry in the world. Let's change that by using all the fabric, no patterns. Everybody, no patterns, build a gown, period. Now for the essentials. Patterns are optional, but you'll still need your machine, the thread, your fabric of choice, a used leotard, your hot glue gun, measuring tape, handy dandy scissors, and fabric pins, and an invitation to the ball. Boop. Assembly. How to sew step by step. The sandwich needs its ingredients. So I'm going to show you how to thread the bobbin, load the bobbin, thread the needle, lay the fabric, lower the presser foot, check all of your settings, and then clear all your fingers and toes and anything else and get it out of the way. The amount of power that this needle has coming down is so great, and it can really fuck you up. I had one of my nails get caught in this thing here once, and it just completely snatched half of my nail off and flung it across the room. If you watch fashion competition shows like me, then you know that every season somebody hurts themselves on one of these machines.
Please help me! Ow, 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 it's in my nail!
That's why I call it a power tool. Having access to one of these is not something to take lightly. Then, once we're all clear, you can mash that gas. So imagine that the two pieces of fabric you want to adhere together are lying side by side, and the act of sewing is purely binding them together along one side. Now, put your leotard on a dress form or friend. You're just gonna take all the fabric that we're gonna sew together and wrap it around the Spartacus bodice or the leotard or the unitard. Make no mistake, I will be using a glue gun to stick this fabric onto this friend. You've seen me sewing in every episode just about, so I am not insecure about my sewing skills. I have no shame when it comes to using a glue gun. Besides, I already have my trophy, which is a reference to the costume contest at the start of the... You didn't get it. See, you gotta pay attention. The real stans will know. As we start thinking up ideas of what we want our superhero garment ball gown to be, I just want to encourage you to always stay true to yourself in the creative process, remembering always that creativity breeds innovation. My ball gown will be made of tulle, which started as a medical wound dressing. You may know it as gauze, #technology. For my garment, I want to channel the healing properties of tulle in an elaborate garment that represents the dress that I wish I'd gotten to wear to my prom. Oh, she finna shut the ball down. My inner child is gonna be very happy. If you post your photos or videos of yourself and your new garment that you sewed yourself, be sure to tag @TwirlingTechGoddess so that we can check them out. Comment below if you have any other questions that may come up in the process. I'm talking about you girls at the House of Flora. Now, as you all know, a wearable is not mending my soul unless it's stage ready. So I'm gonna go get changed, and I'll see you in the desert. And remember, the process of healing does not end when the wounds are no longer visible. It ends when the wounds no longer ache. This program was made possible with the generous financial support of the Boulder Library Foundation. To learn more and find out how you can get involved and help fund future library programs, visit boulderlibraryfoundation.org today.